All right. What's up, everybody? The Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast. I'm stoked to welcome my friend John Rojas onto the show today. Real quick before we kind of get into his stuff, I'm really excited to premiere. We are working through creating our own training app that we're going to be dropping here, hopefully the beginning of next year, end of this year. So be on the lookout for that. If you're looking for early access, shoot us a message. We're going to be giving out 50% off for early access members. So just real quick plug before we kind of get into this stuff, but I want to start off by saying, John, thanks for coming on, man. People, I'm sure, figure this out, but you're definitely a world of knowledge and wisdom in the world of bodybuilding and training in general, and I'm excited to kind of chat with you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I know we met a little while ago, so I know we've been meeting to meet up. So this is really cool. Excited to be here and talk with you and see what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, cool, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll kick it off there. Origin story. You can go back as long as you want, or whatever you kind of want to do.
Sure. Yeah. So you have context. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I live in San Jose now. I'm 27. I have a nutrition coaching business. We work with bodybuilders. We also work with people who just work 9 to 5s, just trying to get in shape. But I've been doing this for, I think I'm hitting like a decade this coming year, which is pretty cool. I used to have a gym out in Maryland, and then I eventually sold it. And then we both, you and I both went through PTBI to kind of build up our coaching business. And ended up moving to San Diego once I joined, sold the gym, pretty much stopped in-person training altogether, and focused mainly on providing more of a nutritional approach to my clients instead of just teaching people how to work out, trying to teach them how to, be bodybuilders, essentially, whether you're competitive or not, doing it from a more sustainable standpoint.
Nice, man. And tell the people what's the business name? Where can they find you real quick? Just so that's like right on the front. We'll front load them with that.
Yeah, of course. So the team name is Team No Cute Reps. So No Cute Reps. And my Instagram is John Rojas Fit, just all one word. And that's essentially, our website. If anyone that still uses websites, is ncrnutritioncoaching.com.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, so the stuff that I've seen from you has been like truly remarkable, and you guys have built an awesome like kind of community. And I want to kind of get into like what brought you to the coaching world. I mean, doing it for a decade. You said you're 27, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you started off when you were 17 coaching other people to, how does a 17-year-old be like, "Oh yeah, I know how to, eat well," and like tell some like 40-year-old dude like this is how you need to be doing these things. Like tell me about like kind of building that confidence, figuring out how to do those things. Like I feel like that's a tough thing to do at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, because I grew up, most people say this too, like most trainers or coaches, like they grew up playing sports. And when I realized, like I was very competitive in terms of my sports, and I played like every single season, and my goal was to go to college for some sport. Like that was always my goal, but just didn't work out that way. And when I realized that that just wasn't going to happen for me, I ended up shifting my focus towards just lifting, being more essentially just training myself. My brother used to drag me to the gym, but that's when I also just am not. I never saw myself going through college and getting a degree and working in like a corporate world. So I was like, well, the closest thing to playing sports in college is being a personal trainer, training college athletes. Like that was, I was like, I want to stay in this space somehow. So when I was 17, I actually prepped for my first bodybuilding show in my senior year of high school. So like I would bring all my meals to
Damn,
class.
dude.
I had to like ask permission from my teachers, like, hey, can I eat during this period because I had like a bodybuilding show coming up, and this
Did you
was
have a
back.
coach? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I hired a trainer at the local gym.
Okay.
Love him. His name is Mike. We're still friends to this day, but he didn't really know what he was doing. He knows that. Like at the time, I went into the gym and I was like, hey, I want to do a bodybuilding show. Do you guys have any trainers that know what they're doing? And they all kind of looked at each other. They're like maybe Mike. So my dad hired him for me. He worked with me. He prepped me for the show, and I got lean. And I grew up an overweight kid, so the reason I got into it was really just like I wanted abs. And how old are you, for example?
I'm 29, man, so we're cut from the same cloth of time, I think.
So like 10 years ago, online coaching wasn't really a thing. Like it wasn't as big as it is now. It was more like Christian Guzman, like YouTube. That was really what the coaching space was. So there was no like online coaches that you could reach out to prep you for a bodybuilding show. And so that was what I did my senior year, and we kind of just winged it. But like I ended up falling in love with it, and so right after like that senior year, I wasn't like getting paid to train people, but people like when you're 17 years old, people are asking like, well, how are you losing weight? Like, how can I do this with you? So I would like help people here and there. I would train them, go to the gym with them, but once I graduated high school, I want to say the next month, I got my certification to be a personal trainer. So that's when I started training other people. I competed that year when I think I turned 18, started prep 17, turned 18, competed. Then I just started training people. Then I realized like I wanted to open a gym. That was the goal. Open a gym, be in the gym all day. I just loved it. And fast forward, I went through college, dropped out of college because as we both know, going to college to be a personal trainer when you're already a certified personal trainer, to get the degree I wanted, I'm like, I'm doing all this schoolwork, I'm doing all this stuff to be a personal trainer. I'm already a personal trainer. Like, I don't really want to get this degree. I hated school. So I dropped out and ended up opening a gym when I was 22. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm full force. Like, I have to be a coach. Like, I have to make it happen. I dropped out of school. I really don't have another choice. I was like bartending on the side. And then, a couple years later is when I met Zach, and I sold the gym, and I had this like dream of like, I want to just be fully online. And like, when did you grow up watching YouTube as well? Like Christian Guzman and all those guys?
That dude, I was all into competitive sports when I was a kid. Like I'll tell you a little bit after you kind of finish your story, but like I was like 145 pounds soaking wet when I left high school as a
Oh,
senior, to
wow.
be honest. Yeah. I was lean, not by choice lean.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, well, that was like my thing was just for when I started, I want to be an influencer. So like you can find old YouTube videos of me like vlogging. I would like visit my girlfriend at the time in Tampa. I would vlog my trips. Like it was like an 18-year-old me just like trying to be a vlogger. Um, but eventually I realized that you can actually be an online coach and help people nutrition wise. Because in person training, when I had the gym, I realized it just wasn't my passion. I didn't love being in the gym all day with people because I ended up falling out of the gym, out of love with the gym myself. And I was struggling, pretty bad mental health wise because, in college, if you don't really know what you're doing, you're like doing all this work. I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. And so I ended up using the gym as just like a scapegoat. And eventually I realized when I hired my first coach that the mental health side of this is super important. And you're not going to stay in shape forever unless you get that figured out. Um, so yeah, eventually I sold the gym and I focused mainly on just the mental health side of things, the nutrition side of things, and how those two play into, someone actually staying in shape. And then, yeah, ever since I just dedicated all my time to online coaching, and I put kind of my bodybuilding things to the side or I guess my bodybuilding ventures to the side. I kept working out, but my main focus was my clients. And then, and yeah, fast forward. So it's been when I was 22, I opened the gym. I'm 27 now, so going about 5 years now, just fully online coaching, trying to make it work, and actually made it happen. I really didn't have a choice.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah, so I can resonate with a lot of the stuff that you're saying, especially being like, hey, you just want to play sports forever. Like, I think that's kind of what everybody does. Or maybe you had an influential coach and you're like, hey, like it would be kind of cool to do that. And I don't know if I've told you, but I kind of fell into the online coaching space because I saw a Facebook post from a girl that I knew who was stationed with me in Florida for like a little bit. And she was like, hey, I'm looking for an online coach. And does anybody have any recommendations? And I had like been doing group training here at a local mom and pop gym. And I was like, man, like, I think I could do that. And I was sitting there and I like read it like 4 times. And I was like, And I shot her a message and basically said, do you want to try this out? Like, I don't know, you want to pay me $100 and we'll see how it goes. And it kind of just like fell into it too. So, but yeah, that always being connected to like sport and movement and all those types of things I can totally resonate with, and a fellow Marylander too, something that we definitely have bonded over in the past. Also, my brother still lives up there, so
Oh, nice. Yeah,
yeah,
and I know you're in the military. You're in the Navy.
the Coast Guard, close enough, right? Yeah.
So when I think I was 20, and like same time I was like in college. I'm like, what am I doing? And I was laying in bed when I was living with my parents, like laying in my room, and I signed up to speak with a recruiter for the Marines because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, bro. And my brother's in the Army. His wife is in the Marines. They're like officers. And I told him the next day, I'm like, hey, I signed up with a recruiter to join the Marines. And I thought he was going to be like excited. He's like, dude, no, do not do that. He's like, you are meant for more than that. He's like, you're just having a tough time. He's like, do not join just because you don't know what you're doing. Um, and so I like the recruiter kept calling me. He's like, hey, are you coming in? And I just ignored it. And I ended up not doing it, thankfully. Otherwise, I don't know what I would be doing.
Yeah,
But
it's probably something different than what you're doing now.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, that was kind of the state I was in. But yeah, that's kind of my story, kind of in a short stint.
Yeah, no, I dig it. And we can definitely dig into more parts of it too. So you'll see anybody who follows John on any of the social media or the No Q Reps kind of conglomerate, you'll see this man is traveling to shows all over the country with his clients, and they're bringing home some bread, dude. You guys are bringing home some W's. Your clients are being super successful. I know you've got some assistant coaches around that you kind of hired out to kind of help build your team. I want to talk to you about like how you've seen like the development of how you coach people like through. So I've never done a bodybuilding show, and I think I've told you this before. Like if I ever decide to do one, I'm gonna hit you guys up for sure. It'll be my first and only call to make that happen. And that's because like I trust what you guys do, and I've seen like the writings on the wall for the way that you guys make things happen. So I want to talk about like, hey, how did your kind of training, we'll call like start off, and then how is it kind of molded and crafted, and then how have you built the brand to be like, hey, bring people in and then have them really integrated and bite off on the stuff that you're doing with your clients?
Yeah, that's a good question because when I started coaching people, it was not bodybuilding focused. Because like when you first start out as a coach or a trainer, you're not getting these high level athletes. Like you're not getting highly motivated people.
Yeah, bro,
And
you're getting
so
Susie who wants to lose 10 pounds and yeah, have a bigger ass or something like that, right? Yeah.
exactly. That's always the example I say. I'm like, yeah, well, like if I'm talking to a client who's a coach, I'm like, well, if you get Susan on board and she wants to lose 10, 20 pounds. But yeah, like that was pretty much what I was getting. And kind of, I forgot because you said the same thing. You saw a Facebook post, someone that needed a coach. That was how I got my first client when I was actually 19, my first online client. Someone posted on Facebook like, hey, I need a coach to lose weight. Like, do you guys recommend anyone? I can do it. Like, I'll do it. Um, he didn't know that he was my only client. I didn't say that, but I put my all into it, and he got decent results. But yeah, like I essentially where I'm at right now. When I was 19, I never would have seen myself being able to actually coach bodybuilders who get on stage, and I think the transition has been like me being able to get to this point. I think has been the standards of what I set within the program. So when I coach somebody, the standard is like no matter whether you are you're a beginner or you're advanced, you have 5 kids, you're a bachelor, it doesn't matter. Like the idea is to hold yourself to a high standard. And I think over time that has really molded into the type of people that I guess I attract into the program. And so I started out just helping people lose weight, get a little bigger, things like that. And so as I started getting these people those results that they weren't really expecting, that's when I was like, oh, I can put some of these people on stage. And so from my like a imposter syndrome standpoint, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get to that one day, right? But that was always my goal. It was like a pipeline dream. And eventually, I think I just as I got more certified and I got more of a knowledge base around like hormone function, nutrition, how all those things play into one another, I was actually able to get my first client on stage, and that really nailed it down for me. Like, oh, I can do this. Like, this is I'm gonna do this. And I think once people join, once like the name No Cute Reps is something that I started just during COVID. Actually, I I don't know if you've ever seen this. I posted this a while ago, so probably not. I built a gym in my garage during COVID when everything was closed. You couldn't order things. You couldn't order equipment because everything was sold out because everyone was buying gym stuff. So I built a squat rack out of 2x4s and concrete buckets, and that's where I would train people in my garage, or I would train myself. Sorry, and people would hit me up like, "Hey, can you train me?" I'm like, I didn't have a job because it was COVID. So I'm like, sure. So like, people would come in, and I would train in my garage, and then that's when it started to build, and that's how I essentially ended up building my actual gym. which is building clientele in the garage. But I spray painted no cute reps on the bar, like on the wood, and it just caught fire. I don't know what it was. People just loved the phrase, and so it just stuck with me. And I would make shirts that said no cute reps on it. And then from there, that's why I called the team name No Cute Reps. And the idea behind it is we're going to the gym to train. We go about life to progress, whether it's in the gym or whether it's in your career. We want to go into it with the ideology like things are going to come up. Life is stressful, kids are stressful, work is stressful, but we have to continuously try to evolve. And that was the idea behind what No Cute Reps meant. And now I'll get like the most random client who like they look great, but I never thought they would be bodybuilders. I just got a text today actually from a client who was like, "Hey John, I think I want to do a show next year. Like, what do you think?" And it's like I get those all the time from people who join not wanting to be bodybuilders, and eventually they're like, "Oh, I can actually this is doable," because of the mindset that I kind of instill in them. They're like always trying to evolve. They're always trying to reach some goal. So I think that's essentially the standard I set is like we're always trying to evolve, whether you're competitive or you're just trying to evolve career wise, mentally, or whatever.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, that's super, super cool that you have. And you got a cool, like, not only that, like in the bodybuilding world, and I like to say, like, there's a lot of people that can coach people how to do like reps effectively, to have the knowledge that you have as well, like in the gym and moving weight. But I think it's another piece that you kind of barely hinted on that I want to hit on too. That's like the nutrition in the hormone like understanding and all these other kind of like certifications that you have that have basically given you the knowledge base to be able to take training information, combine it with hormone, gut function, overall nutrition understanding. And then also the third piece that I think you could probably agree, which is like 90% of it is like, how does this fit into John's life or Joe's life or Sally's life, right? Because like at the end of the day, like Sally with 5 kids is going to be way different than Joe, who's a single dude sleeping in a studio apartment, that is only kind of worried about themselves and doesn't really have a lot. And someone's nutrition, Sally's, who's got 5 kids, and Joe's nutrition, where she's got to like make food for the family and do all these things, is totally, totally different. So I'd love to hear like, hey, I'm a new client of yours and I just sign up and I'm like super excited. Maybe I'm not thinking about bodybuilding yet. And I'm like, hey, John, I'm coming to you because I want to lose, 15 pounds. And this is my goal. And like, what do you do? What do you take your clients through? What is like a peek behind the curtain into what working with John and NCR kind of looks like?
Yeah, so it's I have them fill out a pretty in-depth questionnaire because, like you said, people ask me like, well, how often do you go to the gym, or like, how do you structure your day? I'm like, dude, my day is completely different than yours. So like, especially if you have kids, it's all the like everybody has the time, and I'm sure like this too. You hear it all the time. I'm super busy, but no matter how busy you are, you always have time for yourself. And if you're not taking time for yourself, then a change needs to happen, right? Because no matter how successful you are, no matter how busy you are, at the end of the day, you go home and you lay in bed with yourself or your wife or your husband, whoever it is. Like those are the people that matter is when you lay down, right? And if you lay down and you lay next to your wife or your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, and you're not happy with yourself, then what's the point of anything that you're doing throughout the day? And so I always kind of have that stern conversation at first. It's like, look, I know things are going to come up. I know your life is busy, but we have to set parameters to set time aside for yourself, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be. So that's kind of the conversation I have with them first is what's realistic for you, because a lot of times people will think that, or like people's barrier to working with me is like, oh, I don't have time to work out 5 days a week. I'm like, cool, I don't work out 5 days a week, so that's already nipped, right? Like we find what works best for each individual, whether you can only work out 2 days a week, 3 days, or you want to work out 6. We find a way to make it work, just depending on what's realistic for each person.
Cool. Yeah. And then do you have people run like a hormone panel and like get really into like the nutrition side and like understanding that? Because I think that that's something that not a lot of people do know how to do. And then beyond that, I think like, hey, people say they're a nutrition coach, and a lot of people are like, oh, are you just like making people carry around a food scale all day and like weigh their food out and then put it into MyFitnessPal? Because that's what as sad as it is, that's what a lot of people think like being a nutrition coach is like. And I'd like to kind of hear a little bit about your process and hopefully dispel the myth that all nutrition coaches do is have you carry around a food scale and be glued to my fitness pal and not be able to drink a beer or do whatever you kind of or have a cupcake or whatever
Yeah,
your kind
it's
of guilty
completely
pleasure is.
it, right. Exactly. I kind of have like, it's not like set in stone, but like in my mind, I have tiers of people, and so there are some people who I don't have them track anything, or there are some people who are they're like, yeah, like tell me exactly what to eat, and I'll do it. Say, okay, cool. So it really is dependent. Like as a nutrition coach, the word coach is the most important part of that title, because people will group nutrition coaches and nutritionists, two completely different things. Because if you go to nutritionist, you're sitting down and they're just their job is to tell you what to eat. You have an issue, okay, this is what you got to eat to fix it. But there's no coaching that goes with it, because usually nutritionists work alongside somebody else. So having a nutritionist alone is not very, it's not very what's the word, effective. And so with the like your question with the hormone panel, I don't have everyone run it unless it's like necessary. So, but some people they're just like, oh, I want to check my hormones, and I personally think everyone should have bare minimum at least like one hormone panel done per year, especially as you get older, because your hormones downregulate as you get older, and so you want to see what your baseline is at. But it's also kind of pricey, so it'll be upwards like $200-300. So if someone doesn't have that expendable income, there's no reason for me to put that burden on them if it's not necessary. But if someone joins with me and they have PCOS, they're maybe they're taking birth control, maybe they're a guy who's run PDs in the past and he has like severe acne or whatever the case might be, then yeah, let's run a hormone panel, because that'll tell me which direction to move. And I like to test. I don't like to guess. So if I'm trying to guess what's wrong with you, we might be moving in the wrong direction. But most people, I don't require it unless it's like, look, there's something messed up here. We got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's really great. It's about that personalized approach too, right? With the nutrition coaching in general, or coaching in general, really is like, how can you fit your goal into what your life looks like? And we like to say like, hey, you're the expert of your own life. Like we are not like in the driver's seat. You're in the driver's seat. You have to take accountability for that. We're going to be here to guide you along the way. And I definitely dig the like, hey, making sure that people are one taking the accountability for what they're doing, two they're understanding kind of what they are ready, willing, and able to do so they can make that change effective, because I'm sure the consistency is more important than you being really really good and then really really poor all the time. And that's another thing that I feel like in the bodybuilding space is definitely underappreciated. Like people just see guys on stage and they're like, they don't realize how long it's taken you to get to that point, and the amount of consistency that's had to be put in over the course of, I don't know, 6 months or however long kind of the prep phase has been for the client that you're working with too.
Right. Yeah. It's like the first 2 weeks I try to have everyone do is like, I'm gonna write you this. Let's just stick to it as close to 100% as you can. Right. And then that'll kind of tell me where we stand, because like I know what I'm going to write you is going to work, right? But it's not like you said, if someone wants to enjoy a beer or have a cupcake or everything like that has to be part of your daily life. That's a non-negotiable for you. And that's something that I have people tell me is like, what is a non-negotiable? So it could be me and my wife go on a date night every Friday. Okay, cool, we'll implement that in there. I go, like there's this one client I have who goes to like a bourbon and cigar event with his dad like once a month. And he's like, can I still do that? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But they just like communicate that to me so I know that that's in there. So that way we're not just like, I'm not just guessing what's going on. So yeah, it has to be a realistic part of their life. But the only thing I'll say is like when you're on a competition prep, it's a completely different game. Like you're pretty much like you said, what are you able to commit to? On a bodybuilding prep, you're committing to 100%.
Yeah. Unless you don't want to take home the gold, right? I mean, you can go up there and make a fool of yourself, of course,
Exactly.
but yeah, you don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Or even that, like
Um,
I tell them, like, look, you can BS all you want, but if you're not ready to go on stage, I'm not putting you on stage, because I'm not going to put like my name behind you going on stage and looking like crap. You know what I mean?
right.
So that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is one like thing I'm very stern on, is like when you do decide to do a bodybuilding prep, it's a lot more work for a coach when someone's doing a bodybuilding prep. So like you give it your all, I'm gonna give it my all, and that way we agree on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it, man. I'd like to talk a little bit about some interesting fact that I know about you, and to hear kind of your take on the concept of play. We use it a lot here, just because I feel like as adults, like people really lose out on like doing something that you really like. For example, I know that you're a ping ponger, and we have that kind of in common. I grew up playing a ton of ping pong with my pops in the basement. I'll share like a quick story. We used to play ping pong every single night when I was like, I don't know, I guess it was probably the age like 14, probably to like 16. It was probably like 2 years straight where we were doing it. Um, and we had this artificial, and it was a totally fake thing that we didn't actually have, but it was the title. We called it the title, like who's owning the title right now. It's basically who won the last game of ping pong. So I started playing with them, and I used to get my ass kicked, dude. It was like 21-2, 21-5, 21-7, and it start like slowly, incrementally. I'm like starting to get closer and closer. 21-12, 21-15, 21-18, and then we're going into OT. 24-22. He's still winning. Those are times where like me as like a 14-year-old kid, I'm like going up, and I'm so frustrated because I'm incredibly competitive, like to my core. So I'm going up the steps from my basement, frustrated as hell, like throwing fucking like a hat down and like yelling and crying and like just so pissed off because I, you know, just on the verge of being able to take the title, if you will, away. Right. My pops is the type of person that he'll never let you win anything. So if you actually do win, you earned it. And I eventually get that breakout win. And eventually the tables start to turn to where I'm starting to beat him 21-18, 21-15, 21-13, 21, and it just progressively like that. And then I started playing with my left hand, and I started to beat him. I beat him with my left hand too at a certain point. And now he claims that he created a monster, of course, in the game. And he's like, I made you. And I was like, well, yeah, people became master at that point, right? But I know that we talked about it when we were at the last retreat that I was at, how like into ping pong you kind of got, and having that kind of concept of play. And you actually even went so far as to hire a coach, from what I remember us talking about, to help you get even better, because you almost took like that same approach that you take to your training to ping pong. And I think like it's so important to have play and something that you're passionate about that kind of takes you out of a realm of like work and function and all those things, to kind of let you like check into a different part of your mind, your body, and those types of things. So I want to hear your kind of take on ping pong after my long-winded discussion about my ping pong past, so we could bond a bit about it.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I honestly forgot about the coach that I hired, because I joined a ping pong club here in San Jose, because ping pong here is huge. Because like ping pong is huge in like China and Asia, and so the ping pong club here, nobody here speaks English at the ping pong club. Like I think I'm the only one that speaks like that. My main language is, or my first language is English. So I'll go in there, and these guys are fully geared up. Like they have ping pong shoes, they have ping pong jerseys, and so I'll go in, and these guys would not play with me. It's like going to like the local park, and these guys are dunking basketballs, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not playing with you. Like if you obviously can't keep up." And that's what it got to. Like I would show up sometimes, and I used to like set aside like 2 hours of my day to go play ping pong. And I would show up, and I would sit for an hour before anyone asked me to play. And eventually I saw the trainer in the corner, and so I went and asked him. I was like, okay, how much is it to train with you? Like I got to get better. Like these guys won't play with me. Again, this guy didn't speak English. He was Vietnamese, and he knew how to
You have
count.
to learn Mandarin before you can get or yeah,
Yeah, but
Cantonese,
yeah,
right? Is it Cantonese that they speak, Vietnam?
Mandarin and Cantonese they speak in
Yeah,
China.
yeah, that's what I thought.
But like this guy could count to 10. Like that was, he would say good, bad, move. Like that was like our training. But no, I got pretty decent, and I would go in, and they eventually would play with me, and I started beating some of them, and they finally like accepted me, But like you mentioned earlier, like everyone needs that thing that's outside of the gym, that's outside of work, that gives you that same reward system, or that same reward response that you get from seeing progress in the gym, from like making money, right? Everyone still needs that, and that's something I'm very big on. Like I'll ask a client, they'll come in and they're very stressed people. I'll say, what do you do for fun to relieve stress? And don't say the gym, because I'll say like, oh, what do you do for fun that relieves stress? And they start to talk, and I say, but don't say the gym. And they go, oh, they're like, I don't know. I don't really. And I'm like, that's the problem, right? Like, that's why you're so stressed out, because you don't have an outlet. You're so focused on what needs to get done that there's no time for you, And I think that's why I started playing ping pong, because I was so stressed out with the business. I was stressed out with just like going to the gym, and it all became like part of my day that I feel like I didn't have any time for myself to kind of just shut off my brain. And that's what ping pong, did for me. And honestly, I stopped going a couple months ago, and I gotta start going back. I started actually playing the ukulele. Like that was I
Well,
would
there
like
you go.
transition.
Straight it up, dude.
Yeah, so like I would sit down for 20 minutes if I'm stressed. I'll put on a YouTube video that taught me how to play Over the Rainbow, like that famous ukulele song. And I would just sit here in my office and just learn. And eventually I learned it, and I would just play it throughout the day, and it was awesome. And so yeah, I feel like everyone needs to have something that stimulates that competitive nature, so that way you continue winning at something.
Yeah, no, I dig it, man. And I think like you said, the play is just so important. Like you get older and you don't have play or some sort of stress relief. It could be reading a book, it could be sitting like on your couch or whatever. Like my wife really likes to have a cup of coffee on the couch with the dog in the morning. And that's like her like time to just like hang out and do her stress relief kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that without that, you really start to put yourself in a spot where you almost kind of lose a piece of yourself or where you're going. And we talk a lot with our clients that have kids, and a lot of parents end up putting themselves in that spot, right? Like you've put so much time, effort, energy, and like love into your kids. And I'm not saying don't to do that. And I don't have kids personally right now, so obviously I haven't had to try and figure out where that Mendoza line kind of is for me, but figuring out like, hey, where do you decide to put your mask on first, I think is a really, really tough thing for a lot of people, because you don't want to be looked at, one is from your peers probably, or your partner as a poor parent. And two, you want your kids to to give them the best life that they can have, and probably one that's better than the one that you had too. So I think like we have a ton of people that work with us. There's like, hey, I gotta, how am I going to have time for this? Because this is like stuff that I'm doing with my kids. And we say the same thing. Like, if you're not able to put your mask on, how are you? The airplane says that for a reason, right? Like, if you're not able to save yourself, you're definitely not going to be able to save anybody else or help anybody else. So if you're not giving yourself that, even if it's 20 minutes to go and move your body and do something you enjoy, then you're just going to be angry and frustrated or not show up as your best self, which then is going to just, continue down the line and potentially do something, harmful to yourself, or you'll just kind of lose yourself along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the airplane analogy. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, dude, I'm a pilot, man. I got to make sure I slide those in every once in a while,
Very true. Very true.
yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. So tell me a bit about like how it's been to have your team on. So I've seen like I do want to say too, I saw you get some Jordans for some of the teammates back in the day, dude. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
She looked super stoked to get those, and I want to hear a little bit how it's been working with them and figuring out kind of how to be that like top tier manager to make that stuff happen, because we've got some assistant coaches here that I'm super blessed and thankful to have on staff as well, and I'm sure that you feel the same about yours.
yeah, man. It's honestly they're like part of the family. Like whenever anyone joins, I have a pretty like in depth conversation with them. Like because I'm very big on how I was taught to onboard assistant coaches. It was just kind of like they're just like the help. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're busy. Onboard assistant coaches because you need help. But like when I onboard them, it's like I like, do I vibe with you? Do you vibe with me? Like, because this is supposed to be a long term commitment, and like yeah, the Jordans. That was I got Jordans for. Um, I have I have two coaches on the team, and then I have a sales rep as well. I got all of us like we're all supposed to have the same Jordans, but one of them, like Morgan, she already had the pair that I got everyone else, so I got her a separate pair. Um, but yeah, it was like something they weren't expecting, and it was really just we had a really good month, and I just wanted to give them a thank you because they mean a lot to me, and they help me out a lot with helping to grow the business and doing a lot of things that I don't typically have the time to do. But yeah, it's definitely a transition from what I started the business, because I was pretty much doing everything, and I was doing all the coaching, and I was focusing on just like being a coach and the like managing everything at the same time. And so it becomes a little stressful at times, because now as you know, you're dependent. These people are dependent on you, and so now you have to kind of step into more of like a leadership role. Like, all right, these things have to get done so that way my assistant coaches can thrive as well. So yeah, it's I love them. I'm glad that they're on the team, and I'm always trying to elevate the program just so that way they have a better experience, their clients have a better experience, and they can continue to thrive.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about your take on community, because I've got my own kind of thoughts that I've probably shared on here a couple times for anybody who's a repeat listener. But I want to hear your take, like from assistant coach down to newest client to oldest client. Like, what's kind of your take on having your community there and the support that you guys have?
Yeah, the community is everything. So when someone joins, I kind of like when someone asks me, like if I meet someone at the gym or something, like, oh, like I want to work with you, like can you be my coach? Like, oh, I don't care what it costs. Like I want to join. The answer is always no, because I want you to see what the community is like first. I want you to see what's expected of you, what's expected from us, and that way when you join, the community is still intact and everyone still can be supportive of one another, and that way everyone is kind of on the same page. So yeah, community is very big for me. I have like team merch and everything to make sure it's kind of like an added bonus once they join. It's like, all right, well, I am part of a team, I'm part of a community, and we're very big on having our group calls and throwing things in the group chat to make sure people are staying engaged and staying holding themselves accountable, holding each other accountable, because I'm sure your clients experiences as well, is they don't typically, when they join this type of program with you, they don't have sometimes don't have other friends who are in that same type of mindset of like staying on track with their food, going to the gym consistently. And so having another, giant group of people who are going through the same thing, it's extremely important to help them kind of see that, look, I'm not alone in this. And once things get hard, it's normal, right? It's normal for things to get hard. It's normal for us to push through these barriers, and consistently talking with one another and sharing experiences, I think builds a community even more.
Dude, it's so funny. Like, if you'd have asked me, I don't know, 2 years ago, like, what's so important? You'd be like, oh, like training and nutrition and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And like, dude, none of it is the same if you don't have the community of support around. Like, none of it matters. Like, I, I honestly, and this is like public information, like, we have YouTube videos, like 800 YouTube videos that have like workouts, training sessions, mobility sessions, almost anything like nutrition coaching stuff that we've done. A ton of different content is on there. And it's all out there completely for free. So training and nutrition, we want to talk about like pillars of things that we like really focus on here. Those things are kind of commercially available for anybody who has access to a computer or a smartphone. What people don't have access to is the community, and there's a reason for that. Like, that's the thing that I think is worth, it's invaluable. Like, there's no here's an example. We had a guy in our group, Christian, shout out to you, man, who had the unfortunate reality of getting his car stolen from his house the other day. I chatted with our assistant coach, Mia, and I was like, hey, we're going to waive his monthly fee this month. And I was like, I want to see if like anybody in the community would be willing to donate to him because he got his car stolen, right? Because he was at a position where he texted our assistant coach, Mia, and was like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford this program because I'm going to have to try and get myself to and from work. I don't know what to do. So I like decided, I was like, okay, I put it out in the group. I was like, hey, if anybody wants to donate, it's totally not like, you don't have to, blah, blah. We end up sending the guy $545, like right to him, just because the community is that great. And like, that is the thing that I think is like, there's nothing better than that, man. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
If you have a community of support where like come together when somebody's going through a hard time, like Christian, and I don't know if he'll ever listen to this too, but I feel like he will never forget that piece of support that was there. It doesn't matter, like the training sessions are going to be tough, the whatever is going to be there, but he had something tough happen in his life and we were able to really help him out and get through that. And I think that like when you have a group of people, and I like to say, like, I like being the gatekeeper of that because it's just so important to me. Like, I don't want to just let anybody into those walls. We're very selective with the people that we work in a one-on-one kind of capacity, as I'm sure you guys are as well, based on you saying like, no, we can't work with you until you kind of check us out first.
Yeah.
It just is something that I think like a lot of people undervalue, and it sounds so cheesy, but you started off with the thing that I say too, is community is everything. That is the bar none. most important piece of the pie for sure.
Yeah, because if someone comes in and they're expecting a different type of experience and they don't know what they're getting themselves into, it can taint the whole community, and if it's not, like, I've had to unfortunately let people go before because they either, they don't come in with like respect. They don't come in like being respectful either of the community, of the coaches, because they're used to something else, right? And so you want to make sure, like, I'm very big on making sure that the team is supportive of one another. There's respect all around, and making sure that it's a supportive space, and like you said, like we had, so Albert is one of my clients who's lost like a ton of weight, and he's
Dude, that
getting
guy
his,
is a beast, man. Shout out to
dude,
that guy, dude. Holy shit. He looks like unreal. So give him a pat on the back for me, or virtual pat on the back, or real
I,
pat on the back next time you see him, because that guy's crushing.
yeah, he's awesome, and he's getting he signed on with me, and he was like about 300 something pounds, and he was like, yeah, man, honestly, like I just want to weigh like 250. I want to just look like I work out. And we're on the he says this all the time whenever he's on podcasts or whatever, and I told him, I'm like, dude, we're gonna be 250. Like, I know you want to hit 250, but that's not even like, we're not stopping there. I don't know why you want to stop there, but if you want to aim for 250, let's go for it. And he competed at his show at like 190 or something, which is like, he said, I think the last time he was under 200 pounds, I think he was like in his teens or something. And he's 32 now. But when he decided to do a skin removal surgery, or he's like he's doing it, I think, in like a month or so. We set up a GoFundMe for him to help him pay for it because it's super expensive. I didn't realize how expensive these surgeries were. We set up that GoFundMe and we raised a decent amount of money for him, which was really cool, to help him with that expense. So yeah, I mean, that's like very big. What you said is like, when people are having a tough time, just be there for them, support them, because at the end of the day, you can find free trainings everywhere, but the community is what's the most valuable.
Totally, dude. You can go on ChatGPT and have it write you a program, dude. Like, honestly, like, and the thing it doesn't do is it doesn't give you a communal. You're not getting like in-person coach, so somebody who has emotional intelligence to be able to do that. Because I don't know an artificial intelligence that has any of that yet. So I don't know if the coaching piece is ever truly going to get taken over by AI. You start
Yeah.
going down a different rabbit hole having that discussion, but I don't. I think that piece always has to be there. You always need to have the person that like understands the fact that you just got your car stolen, and now like this is not going to like work out. Like, how can we help you? And it's somebody who, by the way, they've been showing up like crazy for their training sessions. They work hard. They do the work behind the scenes. They are communicative with their coach. They're like the perfect client who's been like just absolutely busting their ass. Like, why would we not want to help you continue to be successful? Because we know what you're going to be capable of if you kind of continue on the path. And we'd hate for that to be the you had your car stolen and now you don't get to work and train with us. Like that would just be awful. So yeah, I totally get it, man. Cool. Tell me a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about your support network at home. I know that you recently got married, so congrats to
Thank
you
you.
guys for that. And I've had the pleasure of meeting your wife, and I think she's great. But I want to hear a little bit about like who's John with this dynamic duo that you got there, because she's a beast too, bro. She's been on the stage as well.
Yeah, she's amazing. She luckily, we met because she obviously was into bodybuilding and she wanted to compete, and that's how we met. We were like, that was our main, I guess, connecting piece. But we're very, very different people, and so I don't know how you and your wife are, but like me and her are complete opposites.
Yeah, we
But
are too. Yeah.
even though she's into fitness and everything, it's not what she does for work. So coming home, and she has her 9 to 5 job as an engineer, and so when she comes home, I have to be able to like take my hat off, or like in terms of like taking my coaching hat off and be like the husband and be as present as possible. And but luckily, like with her, when I was on prep, she's very supportive. When she's on prep, we do our best to make sure that person is supported. Food is ready. Who's going to walk the dogs? You're tired. Okay, I got you. Whereas, you probably experience this too with, if you're coaching someone that's married and the other partner is not very supportive, it's almost impossible. So
Dude,
it's
it's so hard.
you have to make sure the other person is supportive for you, because when you get married, you're not just one person anymore. The day and the house and the things that need to get done are involve both people. So if one person can help the other, things will be much more fluid, and both people are going to be healthier because of it.
Yeah, it's a huge barrier, I think, too, that the coaching world doesn't really talk about a lot, is that like, when you do have a partner who is not supportive, how much of a larger barrier for entry it is to be healthy. Like, one person is over here trying to like meal prep, for example, or like have a healthy meal that they cook, and the other person's bringing home McDonald's every day, or whatever equivalent. Like, it makes it really, really hard for you to be successful long term. To kind of one stick to like what you want to do and what you're being told and coached to do versus like doing what's easy. And then two, like your partner's probably like, what the hell are you doing? Like, and like busting your balls, or, metaphorically busting your balls, obviously, if you're a female, but like, it makes it really, really tough for you to like see that sustained success unless they're bought off on the journey too. And it makes it so like, and I'm sure you see it even more so in the prep world. It's like, hey, if so Joe is married to Susie and Joe decides to go into prep, like, hey, Susie, like, be ready, bro, because this is about to get like crazy, because Joe's going to be waking up doing fasted cardio in the morning or training in the evening, or whatever, and have to eat at these very specific times to kind of work out. And it definitely is a two-person job for sure.
Yeah, whenever we do have a married couple, like part of our questionnaire is like, "Are you married?" And if you are, then so when they onboard, we make sure that both, like before they even sign up, both people are on the call to make sure, like, look, are you, like you said, Joe and Susie? If Joe's signing up, like, Susie, are you supportive of Joe doing this? And they have to kind of be on board, because the program is something that's going to involve like your daily life, right? You're making some changes, and you want to make sure that both for the success of the person that's joining, the other person has to be on board, or else it's, essentially you're just kind of doing it on your own. It can cause, a rift in the marriage, and you want to make sure both people are on board and you understand why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, dude, totally agree. All right, John, I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to ask you one more thing. So you're, health person, or maybe not. Maybe you're somebody who just started to heard about you on this podcast or something like that, and you're like, hey, I want to start to make a life shift. I'm Joe, or I'm Susie, who we've been talking about. I don't know if I want to be a bodybuilder, but I just want to start making a different health change, or change one thing. What's the one piece of advice you would give them to start to kind of move the needle in that direction? And why would you give them that piece of advice?
I would essentially like ask when people say that to me, it's funny because you say like, oh, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I always ask like, what do you mean by that? Because usually when someone says, "Oh, I don't want to be a bodybuilder," or "I don't want to get super jacked," it's because there's a lack of belief in themselves. Because not that everyone needs to be a bodybuilder, but anyone who is working out to change their physique, you're essentially a bodybuilder. And I think that when people say, "Oh, I don't want to be a bodybuilder," you're subconsciously saying, "I don't want to take this too seriously. Like I don't really want to. I want to do the minimum." And that's the question I ask, is like, what do you mean by like, oh, I don't want to take this too seriously? Like your health should be taken seriously. So what I usually say to people is like, look at your day to day. Are you happy with how you feel when you wake up in the morning? Are you happy with the energy you have? Are you happy when you look in the mirror? Um, and if not, then look at your day and see what changes can be made. Are you happy? Are you satisfied with the type of food that you're eating? Do you think it's making you feel well? And those are like the very basic questions I have people ask themselves. And if you're not happy with how you look, if you feel like the food that you're eating is not making you feel very good, like just make those basic changes. And then if you start to see that you have, because it's usually like it's a cycle. Like I see it happen. They make the changes, they start to feel a little bit better, and they're like, oh, like I actually, you start breaking down that wall, and like, oh, I do want to look a little bit better. Do want to improve this part about my life, and I do want to start taking it more seriously. But it just takes that initial change of you being successful at making small changes and seeing that you're actually capable of doing it. And then as you get bored of, not want to say bored, as like essentially like if someone says that, I have them do very basic changes. They get really good at it, and they say, okay, I got really good at this basic stuff. I feel a little bit better. What else can I do? Like, what more can I do? Then you add a little bit more on top of that. So like to give you the short answer of what you asked is just change some of your food, stop eating out so much, see how much better you feel, and then start asking yourself, what more can I add to my day? How much, can I work out an extra day? Can I walk a little bit more during the morning? And just start adding healthier habits to your day, and you'll start to notice how much better you feel throughout the week.
Yeah, dude, that's really good advice. we try to break it down as like, you know, the confidence check of things that you're doing. So it's like, hey, you know, if you're trying to make a health shift, or, you know, how confident are you that you can be in the gym 7 days a week? And people are like 1 out of 10, dude, there's no shot I'm going to do that. Well, I'm like, well, sounds like we need to change what we're doing so that we're like 90 to 100% confident. Like, hey, can you walk around the block when you get home from work? Like, yeah, I can do that 100% of the time. Well, sweet. Let's start there. Let's habit stack. Let's build that habit there. And then we can start to really bring this out into other realms. So I totally agree. Couldn't agree more with you. Start small and make it something that you're really ready to do and make happen over time, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool, dude. We're going to have to get together and have a, you know, go out to eat, or maybe a home cooked meal instead of going out to eat in the next couple of months, seeing as you live right down the road. But for anybody that wants to find you, John, I'm going to leave your Instagram handle, your guys's team page, and website all kind of here in the show notes. So don't let me forget to do that, or shoot me a message with all those things over there if I'm not able to find them online. But I want to thank you again for coming on. And then if you have any last parting words of wisdom for anybody who might be listening, now's your time.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I know you do a lot of good work as well with all your people. So, so yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, words of wisdom is pretty much repeating what you said. Habit stack. You get good at the very basic stuff. Don't short yourself on what you're capable of, because you know, me and you both probably never thought that from a business perspective, we never thought that we would be doing what we do and being successful at it. And the same thing applies to fitness. You probably, you know, in 5 years, whoever's listening to this, if you make those small changes, you can make a complete shift in your lifestyle and your health. And, you know, you just have to start small.
Hell yeah, man. Well, again, appreciate it. For anybody that listened this long, thank you guys. If you listen this long, drop us a 5-star review. I like to repeat the words of one of my business coaches: don't be a lazy ass. If you got any value out of listening to John or I kind of rant for the last, you know, 45, 50 minutes, it really, really helps us out to spread the word. So without further ado, thank you guys again, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.